I'm a man in my late 20s. Growing up, I never had much interest in academics and have been working in a manufacturing job for a long time. I've been at the factory since my high school teacher recommended me, and even wrote a letter of recommendation, given how many have left over the years. I'm considered one of the longest-serving employees. Naturally, this led to a promotion from a general employee to a supervisory role. And now I'm even being considered for higher positions. My effort to always work diligently and pleasantly has been recognized. The challenge now is that our company has acquired a great piece of land in a rural area outside the city to build a new factory. However, given its location, no one is eager to move there. This is especially true for those with families, considering schools for their children and employment for their spouses. One day, the boss called me in and said, "Ethan, think of it as a chance to save a substantial amount of money and go there for just 3 years. We'll take good care of your vacations and leave days. We're really short on people for management positions." After giving it some thought, the offer didn't seem too bad. The salary would significantly increase, and after just 3 years, I'd be guaranteed a promotion upon my return. Although it's a rural area, there are quite a few houses available for rent, and the company offered to cover my housing costs. Considering everything, it didn't seem like a step down from my current situation. The only downsides might be the challenge of dating and a lack of nightlife, but I'm still in my late 20s, and I figured it could be a good opportunity to save up some money. A few days later, I went to my boss and said, "I'll go. You promise a promotion upon my return, right?" We had this conversation, and then I found out I had to move much sooner than expected. With only about 3 weeks to prepare, I had to quickly find a place to live and book a moving service. Since I couldn't visit the place myself, I relied on recommendations from coworkers who were also moving to find a place in a similar neighborhood. I ended up in an old row house, which was quite spacious at around 70 square meters and had recently been renovated, so the condition wasn't bad. However, it was located in a more secluded part of the neighborhood, with fields right outside the window. I could see tractors passing by, and at night, all you could hear were the sounds of crickets. It was a 10-minute walk to the nearest grocery store. Still, there was a shuttle bus for commuting, and I didn't mind the walk, so it seemed like it would be manageable. The first month was incredibly busy, with adapting to the new environment and training many new employees. After about a month, I finally took a 3-day break and spent my time lazily at home. One day, I opened the window for some air and found myself gazing out at the fields, where I saw a woman working. She wore a wide-brimmed hat and a floral scarf that covered her face, making it hard to see her clearly. But it was evident she was diligently working in the field. She was wearing the kind of loose pants common in rural areas. But what struck me as unusual was that she seemed quite tall and slender, not quite what you'd expect from someone in this neighborhood. I found myself inexplicably drawn to watching her, and before I knew it, I had dozed off and enjoyed a leisurely nap on my day off. Then, one day on my way home from work, I encountered the woman I had seen from my window. I was walking home from the company shuttle bus stop and saw her working in a field close to the road, driven by curiosity and a desire to know more about her. I approached and initiated a conversation. Getting closer, I greeted her with, "Hello. I've seen you around as I passed by." but this is the first time we're actually speaking." The lady glanced at me and stood up, saying, "Are you from the industrial park? Just moved into that mansion over there? Nice to meet you." She greeted me warmly. I didn't dare ask her age at first, meeting it seemed rude. From her appearance, she looked to be in her 40s, similar to the other women around the industrial area. A few days later, as I was returning home from work and decided to pick up some beer to kill time, she recognized me working in her garden and initiated a conversation. "Looks like you're just getting back." I was grateful. She spoke first and cheerfully responded, "Yes, it's been dark for a while, but you're still working hard." She then mentioned, "Just telling myself a little more, a little more. And now it's this late. Is that beer? I'm so thirsty, suddenly craving a beer." Seeing a good opportunity, I cautiously asked, "If you're not too busy, would you like to join me for a drink? I don't really know anyone around here, so it's a bit lonely." To my surprise, she happily agreed, dusted off her clothes, and followed me home. Upon arriving, she asked, "I'm a bit sweaty. Could I borrow a shirt? I'll just rinse off quickly." I was momentarily taken aback, but lent her a casual shirt and shorts. She then offered to cook with whatever was available at my place. In no time, she whipped up a delicious homemade meal that we enjoyed with the beer. As the alcohol set in and we chatted, she revealed she was in her 60s. I was honestly shocked. I would have guessed late 40s at most. She shared that her husband had passed away before their children were born, and since then, she has been living alone. As we got to know each other over drinks, we found ourselves lying on the floor, deep in conversation until our eyes met. I'm not sure what came over me, but I moved closer, and when she didn't pull away, our lips met. We naturally spent a pleasant time together until the early morning. Dew began to fall. Feeling it was only right, I composed myself and walked her home in the fresh night air. Turns out, she didn't live far. Despite the awkwardness, I was somewhat exhilarated as I returned home and eventually fell into an exhausted sleep. Heading to work the next day, I started to second-guess what had happened. In such a small rural community, rumors of our unusual relationship could spread, and I began to worry. Returning home after work with mixed feelings, I found her, dressed casually this time, waiting at my doorstep. She said, "I noticed you didn't have much for sides, so I made some. Please, take care." She was about to leave right after dropping them off. I couldn't just let her go, so I awkwardly invited her. "Since you've made the effort to bring the sides, why not stay for dinner?" During dinner, I learned she was the same age as my grandmother. My grandmother had my father at a very young age, so the age gap wasn't that big. The realization that I had been intimate with someone my grandmother's age added to my confusion. However, she seemed indifferent or unaware of my turmoil, casually suggesting, "Just call me sister. It feels strange to be called aunt or grandma since I don't have kids," trailing off at the end. So from then on, I comfortably referred to her as sister, and she started bringing over dishes regularly since that memorable first night. Feeling the need to reciprocate, I often tried to create the right atmosphere. Around that ambiguous time, she started calling me honey in a way that felt more like how older women might address each other rather than a pet name. It's unusual, isn't it, to be called honey by someone of the same sex, nearly 40 years your senior. I was taken aback, but didn't know how to ask her to stop without making it awkward, so I let it slide. We weren't officially dating or even exchanging messages, but we found excuses to meet almost daily under the guise of sharing meals or sides. Up until then, my experience with older women was virtually non-existent. My social circle was mainly mid-20s. Women I met through work or younger friends introduced by pals. But now, our secret rendezvous weren't just confined to my place or hers. We even met in secret in the fields. Initially, I was terrified of getting caught by the neighbors, but with each daring encounter, we grew bolder. In areas without proper street lighting, unless someone was intentionally shining a flashlight, we were practically invisible. What started with my heart racing eventually evolved to me enjoying our meetings even more than her, to the point where getting caught never even crossed my mind. I'd casually suggest, "Let's meet in the fields tomorrow." This went on for almost 3 months until a new woman around my age, in her late 20s, joined our factory. Since peers were rare, we naturally grew close, and at some point, it became evident she was interested in me. The factory folks even nudged me, saying, "It looks like Ethan is into you. You should give it a shot." But for some reason, I couldn't find myself interested in her, despite her attractiveness and figure. To be precise, my attention just doesn't gravitate towards women my age anymore. I've developed more interest in the older women I've been seeing these past months. When I take a moment to reflect, I find myself fantasizing about being close not just with the woman from the factory, but also with her in more specific scenarios at work, in the fields, even at my own home. The folks at the factory seemed to want to push us together, so I made an excuse, saying, "I'll be here for over 2 years, and if we break up, it'll just be awkward." I really don't like that kind of discomfort. They didn't press further, but I could tell they were disappointed. And that woman, even though she treats me like a friend and doesn't contact me outside of work, her eyes say something else entirely. But what can I do? I no longer find women my age appealing. Even while enjoying my time with this older woman, thoughts like, "This really isn't right," keep creeping up on me. Yet, I rationalize that it's not so bad for the time being, as long as I'm living here. I've leaned towards just enjoying the situation I'm in, but then I worry about the future. What if, when I return to my hometown, I still don't find women my age attractive? Honestly, with over 2 years left here, I sometimes get frustrated wondering why I'm even thinking about this now. Can I just ignore it and enjoy the present? I hope I won't end up only being interested in women who are as old as my mom or grandmother when I go back.